Greetings and welcome to another edition of The Pedalshift Project. The Pedalshift Project is a series of conversations, thoughts, and experiments on bicycle travel adventures. From tips and tricks to ideas on how to ride your ride, let's shrink the world by bike. Show notes and more are available at pedalshift.net/363, and you can email the show at pedalshift@pedalshift.net or text me at 202-930-1109 and check Pedalshift out on all the socials as well. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 363rd edition of the Pedalshift Project. My name's Timuni. Thanks so much for joining. On this edition, it is part one of the C&O But Slow, and you may be hearing honking in the background from beautiful Washington, D.C. I'm actually recording this from a very different location than normal. My actual office overlooking DuPont Circle. Trivia. Hey, there you go. So this was the kickoff of the C&O But Slow. Starting with a semi-eventful train to Cumberland, the tour kicked off with an unexpected pace. But with rain already soaking the trail and more on the way, would the C&O reject my desire for a chill and relaxing start to my trip? Folks, before we get going, I do want to give a gentle reminder to hold June 8th at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific time, and whatever time zone you're in, for a special live show celebrating 10 years of Pedalshift. We'll have my top 10 moments, a brand new tour reveal, and some patented chat room banter. Make sure you shoot me an email at pedalshift@pedalshift.net if you have anything to contribute. You know, how long have you been listening? What's your favorite episode? Have you dared to listen to all 363 episodes and counting? Whatever it may be, shoot me an email. See you all on the 8th. And now, the thrilling first part of the C&O But Slow. Good afternoon from Washington, D.C. And I am getting the bike all loaded up, and I'm getting ready for a ride to beautiful Union Station on this very steamy midweek day. The train is allegedly leaving on time, although the train that is coming the opposite direction is over 2 hours late. I think it may even still not be here in DC yet. So I don't know what the turnaround time is, or if even they just will use a new train. Maybe that's the case. But allegedly it is on time for departure, which is good, because I will have a solid hour of sunlight, assuming it arrives on time. And I'm hoping to take advantage of that. And my idea is to do what I have wanted to do before, but have never been able to pull off, and that is to try to get to Potomac Forks, as I mentioned in the preview episode. A couple of things get in the way of that. Number one, is there going to be enough sunlight to get down there? The trail does get a little rutted. I just don't know what trail conditions are going to be like. I've never been able to do it before, but I'm really hoping to do it. The other thing is, I am definitely not at 100%. I assume I sound better. I definitely feel better, but I'm just not quite right. So we're just going to have to see how this trip goes. As I mentioned in the preview episode, I have a short and a long version of this trip. If I were to put cash money on it at this point, I'd be guessing it would be the short version. That would make this a truly slowed down trip, which is fine. That's the whole point. And we'll just see how it all goes. Looking forward to getting things loaded up and feeling how the bike feels loaded. It was riding pretty good earlier today when I went out and got a couple of snacks. I'm lighter in some ways. I don't have a rack bag in the back. That's definitely an advantage to this new system with the two bags up on the forks now. So that's cool. I did bring an extra dry bag just in case things get a little dodgy. The forecast for today, hot and sticky. Rain overnight, but maybe not until very early in the morning tomorrow out in Cumberland. It may be possible that by the time I get up and get packed up, the rain still hasn't come. But I do expect there to be rain tomorrow, which will be a part of this episode. We'll do days 0 and 1 together, I'm assuming. And yeah, that's basically what we're looking at this point. I have no specific plans beyond Potomac Forks. I really don't. I think I'm just going to kind of go and let the ride be the ride and see how things stumble out from there. It's funny. It's like, yeah, sometimes when I do the C&O, I'm excited. And this time I'm just sort of like, yeah, cool. And I think it's just because I'm not feeling 100%, and that's a big part of it. So we'll see how it goes. Maybe just even the ride to Union Station will feel good, and that makes a big difference sometimes, just to shake off the rust a little bit and ride that fully loaded bike out there. So, all right, more to come. From Union Station, tone of voice, not great, right? Amtrak is always different every time, every single time. I have had it where the bags can go with the bike. I have had it where the bags have to go with you. Now, I'm now being told that I have to get a bag tag, which they don't have, so I have to go all the way back from the front of the train. So it's quite a haul. Yeah, this is not great. So I'm leaving my bike and all my stuff there, assuming everything's going to work out great. So we'll see. I'm sure it's going to be fine, but it's a lot of extra effort here at the beginning. But yeah, if I have one note, and you all know I love me some Amtrak, I love the train travel, love the integration of bike travel with trains. Man, they got to get their act together with stuff. Okay, let me go get bag tags from someplace. I have no idea where. Here we go. And we're rolling just fine, seated next to a gentleman named Trevor, who seems to be quite delightful from UK, and we're out of here on time, which is great. A little bit of a chaotic beginning, but everything is fine, and everyone was just doing their jobs, but it's a little frustrating when expectations are different than they are in the previous trips. So I am hoping that we get in on time, because I am itching to get out away from civilization, even though I'm doing some work here in the last little bits of signal that I have here out of DC just to clear the decks. I'm feeling pretty good that I can take a few days off and not have to think about things. All right, next up, Cumberland. From Cumberland, Maryland. And I am all set to go. In fact, passing by the bike shop, which is very closed, which is a typical thing when I take the train here, because everything is closed pretty much when you get here to Cumberland. And passing the C&O towpath sign. So we're official. Mile marker 184.5. And passing by the Fairfield Inn and Suites, which is an excellent bike-friendly option if you're hoteling here. They have a bike wash area and all sorts of really good stuff there. Quite accommodating. Have I stayed there? No. Have I taken advantage of their bike stuff? Absolutely. Is that right? Probably not. Welcome to the ethically challenged portion of our podcast. So, the train ride. Couple of reminders, tips, etc. Do not go into any Amtrak ride expecting consistency. If you heard me say something, if you yourself experienced something, the odds of it being precisely the same, at least for the Capital Limited and a few other of the ones that I have been on, consistency is not a thing. The rules change from crew to crew, and I can't even get mad about it anymore, just because I think that it's just how Amtrak is. And I don't mean that as an insult to Amtrak, as I keep saying. I really like Amtrak. I would like more, please. I would like better. But for purposes of us and this fine podcast, go in with extra time. And the reason is that, for instance, on this trip, I'm forgetting the proper name. It's not conductor. It's, oh great, we got geese. And this time of year, geese have goslings. I feel like I've been relentlessly negative here. Hello, geesies. I am not here to do anything to your goslings. I know you're going to hiss at me. I recognize I'm in your territory. Hello, yes. Must not be gosling season, because I'm getting zero hisses. Later in the spring, you cannot pass geese without getting hissed at. And they're aggressive about it too. They're actually fairly scary birds. Okay, so anyways, back to the original thing. You want to have extra time just in case something goes on that is against what your expectations are. Something like what I had, where the train attendant, God, bunny rabbits now? Boy, it's wildlife season here at mile marker 184. You know, you need a bike tag. And a bike tag, even though I'm only going a few stops, you yourself are going to be the one that takes my bike on and off. It's not like you're going to forget me. You yourself actually escort me through the train, making me carry my bags, by the way. You know, it's just interesting. Some people are more about the rules, but it was interesting because this particular guy, who I actually kind of like, because he ended up making exceptions when it was the difference between, all right, we're going to go or we're not going to go. So I come back with bag tags and not a bike tag, because all I heard was bag tag. And at that point, he was like, okay, just write Cumberland on your tag. Great. Okay, cool. So there was that. Other folks went back and got the proper tags. I was the dummy. Because I think this is another system fail for Amtrak. When you make a bike reservation, there's no, here's the procedure. You go and you get a bike tag. And I think I know the reason why. In DC, obviously, maybe not obviously, DC it's a big station with staffed windows. It's you go and you get in line and you talk to somebody and blah, blah, blah. That is vanishingly rare in today's Amtrak. For instance, the station I just pulled into, Cumberland, is not attended at all. Most smaller stations aren't. It's only in the big cities that are. So the reality is that when I go back from whichever station I go from, Harpers Ferry or Martinsburg, I'm not going to be able to get a bike tag, so nobody's going to ask me for one. So I think that's why I tend to find the train attendants will have a differing view on the efficacy of a bike tag. If you can't get it at a smaller station, and they're going to be picking up people with bikes from smaller stations, some bikes aren't going to have bike tags on them. And so they just go whatever. And then you get my guy who wants to check all the boxes, do the right things. Don't blame him. He sent us all back. And it's quite a ways to go get those bag tags. The other thing that I will say, the reason why I think that he was ultimately a good attendant was what happened here on Cumberland. And there were folks who were going to Pittsburgh from Cumberland, and they actually had a roomette. They were all like, great, here's my bike. And my dude's like, you don't have a bike reservation. And they're like, what do we do? And so, you know, if he was just a pure rule follower, it would have been like, well, you've got 4 minutes to get online and make a bike reservation or call the Amtrak line. But instead, what does he do? He's like, here, hand me your bike and I'm going to give you the number. You're going to have to buy you're going to have to get a bike reservation, or you're going to have to buy a bike ticket, basically. And so he was going to give them the phone number to do that after they started rolling out of here. So that's a totally reasonable thing. And I think that's what most of my experience is like in the Amtrak world with bikes. It's a little chaotic. You know, I think if English is not your first language and you're trying to maneuver this, I think it's going to be very challenging, because just nothing makes sense. Nothing makes a lot of sense at all. So, in any event, I spend the first bunch of minutes of this podcast throwing this all out at you because, hey, this is bike travel, right? You know, this is what happens sometimes when we are out on the road and stuff that we were really expecting to go right goes a little south, and you just have to be prepared for it. I think there's nothing more in my life that has prepared me more for things going sideways than bicycle touring, bike travel, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, it's a good skill to have, you know? And the other thing that I think a lot of people, especially lately, I think especially post-COVID, people tend to fly off the handle with folks in that situation. A lot of yelling and screaming. And you know what? Who's the person who's going to be solving your problem potentially? It's the guy on the train. And ultimately, if you end up having a difficult time with that person and make their life difficult, well, they're not really going to be
I don't know, incentivized to make an exception to the rule to help you out. So I do think that the yelling and screaming model rarely works. This is something I learned long ago, and certainly bike touring has only reinforced. So here we are, lessons already on day 0. So a couple of other things. Number one, it's still pretty light out. I hope you're hearing the birds. I hope you're hearing the gentle breeze of me cutting through the pleasantly cool, still a little muggy air. I am going to try my best to put some miles in. The last time I did this, when I was here, it was pitch black. And I was finding that there were parts of this trail, or rediscovering really, that are difficult to maneuver in the dark. I have both a bike light, a pretty good one, that throws a decent amount of light, and I also have a headlamp. And I would really love to bang out about 20 miles tonight. Not because, it's consistent with the slow moniker, but what it does is it offers me the opportunity to go extra slow if I want, but it also gets me a little further down the trail and affords me, even with poor conditions, the ability to maybe make it down to Harper's Ferry. I'd like to make these miles. I'd like to not feel like I'm so out of shape that I can't do a 2.5 day, 2.5 when all is said and done, ride down there when it ordinarily would take me 2. So yeah, that's where my mindset is. Tomorrow morning, if it's just pouring and it's conditions of the trail are gnarly, I may utterly reconfigure and end up focusing more on getting to Martinsburg rather than Harper's Ferry. But for here and now, I want to keep all the options open. One other thing that I want to mention is the new kind of system that I've got. I really like having a handlebar bat or something hanging from my handlebars. I haven't done it in the past because of a variety of different reasons. I didn't have the right way to keep something on there. Now I do, and I really like it. It's light as a feather. It's really easy to deal with. The fork bags, I like them in concept, but what I'm finding is they're a little too top heavy. They're bound at the kind of lower, I'd say lower third to lower half. If it was half, actually, it would be better, but it's probably the lower third. One of my bags has heavy stuff all the way up through it, and I'm finding that it is flopping around a little too much. I have hooked it up to a bungee to my handlebar. It does not seem to impact my steering, so that's great. And it now is not doing anything problematic. So all good there. We'll see how it goes. I may end up looking to rejigger. I, of course, have the ability to put it on the rear rack if I would like to. As I mentioned, I may look to replace these bags and go for maybe wider bags, or maybe even just using the dry bags, the event dry bags. I think they would work really well there and strap in nicely. So I'm going to play around with that prior to my next tour, which you will learn all about on the live show on June 8th. Look at that plug. Look at that plug. Okay, I am getting bombarded by gnats. It is the gnat season here. It also has rained quite a bit over the last few days. The trail is dry. A couple of puddles here and there, but I'm getting a lot of gnats in the face right now, which reminds me, and I think I've mentioned this story multiple times on the podcast, where Mysterious James and I, on an early ride on the C&O, ended up having to wear our bandanas reminiscent of Wild West days. Like, we're going to go rob a bank or something. And that kept them off of us. And I may have to do that tonight. We shall see. I think as the sun slips further down, the likelihood of the gnats being a problem may also ebb, but it may not too. So we'll have to see how things go. I probably have, I'm gonna guess, another solid half hour of light. The sun is below, I don't think it's fully set yet. It is below behind houses and tree lines and stuff like that. I'm on the outskirts of Cumberland right now. Haven't quite passed the water area, which you may remember from the smell if you've ever done this ride. But I think I'm getting through some of the good parts of the trail. And you may hear I'm going through some puddles as well. The gnarlier stuff is actually up ahead that was hard to go through when I was using lights last time. So this is great. The train being more closer to on time. It was a little bit late. Absolutely helps me out here, which is fantastic. Okay, smells like folks are having a campfire tonight, or maybe that's the water treatment plant. I don't know. I guess we'll see. I'm looking forward to getting past some of the early campgrounds. I absolutely would like to be alone, except for you all, of course. But I would really like to get to the wildernessy areas, you know, and pitch a tent where nobody else is around and I don't have to deal with saying hello to anybody or wondering who they are or anything like that. That's high on my agenda, and that's why Potomac Forks really appeals to me right now. And that's my goal. I think at this rate, things look good for me to get there. One thing I will mention is I don't have a ton of water on me. I have enough, but it's gonna be incumbent upon me tomorrow morning to filter some water for breakfast and whatnot, and it might be raining. So depending on how much energy I have tonight, I might consider trying to get a whole bunch of it into my gravity bag and have that start to siphon out some nice pure water for me. First time ever doing that on the trail. And I don't begrudge the Park Service from doing that. I'm sure it was really expensive, but it certainly adds a layer to the adventure where you are having to think about water purification on your end. Haven't had it. Oh, actually, I take that back. I think I did during COVID, didn't I? Or did I bring all my water? Well, geez, you guys are going to have to remind me of that. I probably brought enough, knowing me. I would rather carry a gajillion gallons of water rather than pump it out. Oh, there's the aroma. I'm passing right by the water treatment plant right now. Okay, this has been a chaotic chapter. I hope it hasn't been too chaotic. Much more to come from day 0 of the C&O ride 2024. From Irons Mountain Hiker Biker Campsite, I have just fired up my headlamp to supplement my bike light, and boy, the headlamp really does a lot more. I'm hearing a little bit of rubbing, and the reason is, holy smokes, the bad parts of the trail are bad. Oh wow, yeah. I have to pull out a huge amount of clay here from my fenders with my finger here, so now my fingers are going to be all gnarled up. Yeah, that's bad. That is bad. Yeah, this is why I'm doing all these miles now, because this part of the trail does not get any better when you add more rain to it, and there is more rain coming. I feel bad. I ran into a guy who's doing the trail for the first time, and he got a hotel tonight. So he is going to be starting in the rain, and it's just straight up not going to be any better than it is right now. So yeah, I am not a night rider, as you all know. Insert didn't. Yeah, okay, you have to be old like me to get that reference. David Hasselhoff, look it up, kids. Anyways, I typically do not like riding in the night, but with this much illumination, this is actually not so bad. I will say the trail conditions have absolutely degraded in parts. It's not bad when it's dry, but of course, once you go through this very, very fine clay, it does build up underneath your fenders. And So the natural inclination might be for you to say, don't ride with fenders. I do not recommend riding this trail without fenders. You will end up just splattered and caked in mud. And it's just less than fun. One thing I'm noticing with the fork bags is, of course, those get very muddy in these conditions. So I'll have to be careful not to bring them in. One of the things about night riding is you get different creatures at night. I have run into what I thought was a fox at first, but it was actually just a feral cat running away from me, no big deal. And just now over my shoulder in the tree-filled former canal, something was running around. It was probably a deer. They like to hang out in there even in the evenings, and when they get spooked they make a racket. So yeah, trails just not great. Like I said, feel bad for the guy following me tomorrow. It's gonna be no bueno. I love this trail. This is the condition of the trail that I think when people ride it for the first time or are otherwise expecting a more, shall we say, curated path, that they get salty about it. And I get that. I mean, this trail is not for everyone. I love it. It's, for those of you who are bike packers, this is going to be more your vibe too, I would imagine, because this is more out there and countrified, rural, wildernessy. Yeah. It's just after 9 o'clock. There is still a little bit of light left in the sky, but it is largely gone. Most of the light that's left to be had is what I'm generating on my own right now. So I'm gonna keep going. I've got just past mile marker 175. You can hear the frogs, by the way. That's what those are. And a car, because there's a road that runs parallel here, which I suppose I could be taking instead of this, but what fun would that be? So just past mile marker 175. There are 2 more campsites available to me. And there was nobody at Irons Mountain back there. Ooh, a little freight train action for you. Maybe I should night ride more often. The sounds are more fun. So two more opportunities. I really would like to get to Potomac Forks. I'm feeling pretty strong right now. I was feeling a little hungry earlier, and I decided not to eat. I had plenty. I had a whole foot-long Subway between lunch and dinner, and that really should be plenty for 20 miles worth of riding, plus whatever it was to the train station. It was only a couple extra miles there. And I would prefer not to go to bed with a full stomach. I've done that before. That's no bueno. So I think I'm just going to keep drinking my electrolyte water. By the way, a new product, I guess, new product review. So Amazon makes electrolyte water powders. So basically they make their version of Gatorade or sports drink or whatever you want to say. And they had it in grape. So I was like, well, let's go with that, because the Gatorade version in powder is very difficult to come by, and it can be very expensive. Don't know why, but it just is. So I bought a 6-pack of that, thinking, okay, let's try it. It's very intense, as I think I say literally every time I drink a sports drink and talk about it on the pod. I end up, wow, you can hear that, boy, that's all mud there. I end up watering it down a lot more. So I'm drinking it at full strength, which actually has been good for this ride. It's been satisfying whatever caloric needs I have. Now, I don't know if it's got actual sugar in it or not. I don't think it does, actually, when I think about it, so don't tell my body that. Although, like I said, I probably ate plenty. I have a really good-looking dark chocolate nut bars for snacks that my body's like going, yes, please, right now. But I'm going to try to avoid eating one tonight if I can. Although I do have close to 10 miles to go. Don't know if you can hear that train. It's over my right shoulder. There's a lot of train activity in this area. Cumberland has a gigantic freight train yard, in addition to, of course, to the Amtrak stop. All right, I don't think I got much else to share here. Bikes, other than having to fish out that clay from my front tire, between my front tire and my fender, bike's been doing pretty good. I'm wondering if my rear cassette needs to be replaced at some point. It's not shifting right, and I've dialed it in, it's indexed right, so I don't know. Passing by another one of those places you can rent here on the canal. Nobody is there. Ooh, it's nice when you go by a lock like that, you lose some elevation, get a little glide, which is nice. You might be able to hear that increase in breeze as a result. It always feels like you're supercharged going on that, like in some video game or something. All right, for real, I'm going to stop talking now. It turns out day 0 may be a little more robust than we thought. I may end up doing 20 full miles on this day, which was always a possibility, but honestly, I didn't think I would be up to it. Oh, I'll tell you why I think I am. I had a coffee on the train. I never drink coffee that late, but it's kept me really nicely alert, and my performance is good. Yeah, this is good. I really needed this, I think. I was not feeling great, as I mentioned early in the show here, and I wasn't sure if this was the right idea, but right now I feel pretty strong, and I don't see any reason why I won't be able to make the miles. The question will end up being, well, the trail conditions and the rain and all the other things that I potentially may be facing here. Is that going to intervene and make me want to make this a shorter thing? But I'll say, so far, I'm enjoying the night riding, and I'm enjoying this slower pace that is coming with this. I don't know if you can hear. It's just really interesting how the night changes this towpath. And again, if you've got the illumination, it's certainly comfortable right now to ride. Now, I take one spill and I'll change my tune, but as long as this feels safe, it feels good to keep going. Okay, I have said that I'm going to stop talking, I think, for the last 10 minutes. So now I'm going to truly stop talking. From Pigman's Ferry hiker-biker campsite, I was going to stop here, but it was occupado, and it is well after 9. What time is it? Ooh, boy, it's almost 10, and they're probably sound asleep, and I just didn't want to, with my lights and the racket that it would entail, I would much rather go further. So it turns out I am going to go to Potomac Forks after all. I suppose I could just pitch a tent any place, but being at Potomac Forks would be awful nice. It's going to be noisy. The frogs are absolutely loud AF. It must be mating season or something like that. I've already checked in with home. Let's see, yeah, we're about 5 miles away. So I'm on now the resurfaced version of the towpath, and boy, oh boy, does it feel nice. I don't know how far on this side it goes, but boy, if this is my companion for a good chunk of the rest of the way, that would be pretty fantastic. Now, I'm sure that it's not, I'm going to lose it the closer I get to Paw Paw, but Paw Paw Tunnel, at the end of the day, let's see, if I'm at 164, yeah, I'm 10-ish miles, is that right, from Paw Paw tomorrow. So boy, what a great fast forward this has been. You may have already known this by looking at the title, but I suspect that Day 0 is going to get its own episode, which I don't think it ever has in the history of Pedalshift. So I suppose there is a first for everything. But it has everything to do with how great conditions are right now. Now, of course, the trail was terrible earlier, but boy, it's drained perfectly. It's flat. It's rolling really nice. I think the only thing that's slowing me down a little bit is there's probably still some muck in between my fenders and my tire, and I feel maybe a touch of resistance, so that might be there. But also, I'm starting to flag a little bit. I mean, it's late to begin with. Of course, my coffee is powering me. I ended up having one of my bars because I really am starting to feel the lack of glycogen right now. Not that I'm going to bonk or should take care of that, but I'm kind of like, I'd like to have a second dinner really when all is said and done, but I'm going to try to avoid that. 10 o'clock, well, by the time I get there, it might be 10:15, I'm thinking, perhaps a touch later, and then, it's going to take a little while to put the tendon up and everything. But this fast forward will be really good. It's funny calling it a fast forward, I'm cycling it, but getting further down trail while it's dry out is certainly a boon for the rest of the trip. And like I said, it affords me the ability to really slow it down and have more tent talks or anything else. If I don't feel like biking tomorrow much, I don't have to. Ditto with the next day, I suppose. It all just depends on how I feel. But right now, this is great. And yeah, I do know that when rain hits the surface, I'm feeling some drops. Oh, that is suboptimal. I hope that's not. I'm going to have to check this, see if rain is actually coming tonight. Because I thought it wasn't going to hit till tomorrow. But yeah, that would be a big problem. So maybe I shouldn't be spiking the football so soon. But in any event, when this surface gets a little wet, it does get a little slow. It drains great, but while it's raining, it's not great. But what surface is great other than something that's paved? So, well, I'm going to let you go. Next you'll hear from me is in whatever camp I make. Hopefully it will be at an actual camp, because that means I'll have water there. I do have water left. I certainly have a bottle's worth, and then whatever's left in my cube. It's not a lot, but it's certainly enough to get me through the night. Would it be enough for the morning? Who knows? Probably not. So, all right, more to come here on day 0 from Lock 71. And I'm going to do something a little different this time. There is an old lock house here. It is not one of the ones that is being rented. And there is just enough space underneath basically the porch for me to put down my pad and my sleeping bag, and I think I'm going to do this. Now it's interesting, there are homes around here, so I've gone to my red light for packing up. I will also aim to get out of here at a reasonable hour before anybody starts using the trail, but I do think that this is a great opportunity here. And I'm looking forward to seeing how it goes. Technically not supposed to do this, but why not? Let's try it. Like I said, I think I've got enough water to get me through. I know that I'm very close to Potomac Forks. Of course, it's likely going to be raining tomorrow, so in some ways this is not a super great idea since I am low on water. But if I've got enough to get me going, then this seems like a great idea. Okay, I'm going to convince myself it's a great idea. So I had so much cycling tonight, and kind of a mini stealth camp. Not even much of a stealth camp, but it's quieter here because the water is moving, so there's not as much frog activity. Yeah, I think this is going to work out just fine. All right, from Lock 71, I bid you a good night.
Statistics. Miles biked, 18. Frogs, roughly a babillion. Stops to pull mud out of my fenders, 2. Proper bike tags requested by Amtrak personnel, 1. Bike tags properly procured, 0. Dark chocolate bars eaten, 1. Flats, 0. And as always, we like to close out the show with a special shout out to the Pedalshift Society. Because of support from listeners like you, Pedalshift is a weekly bicycle touring podcast with a global community. Expanding into live shows and covering new tours. If you like what you hear, you can support the show for $5, $2, or even $1 a month. And there's one-shot and annual options if you're not into the small monthly thing. Check it all out at pedalshift.net/society. On to the society. Kimberly Wilson, Caleb Jenkinson, Cameron Lean, Andrew McGregor, Michael Hart, Keith Nagel, Brock Didis, Thomas Skadow, Marco Lowe, Terrence Manson, Harry Telgadis, Chris Barron, Mark Van Ram, Brad Hipwell, Mr. T, Nathan Poulton, Stephen Dickerson, Vince LaGreco, Cody Florchinger, Tom Beninati, Greg Braithwaite, Sandy Pizzio, Jeff Muster, Seth Pollock, Joseph Quinn, Drew Porter, Byron Patterson, Joaquin Robber, Ray Jackson, Jeff Fry, Kenny Mikey, Lisa Hart, John Denkler, Steve Hankel, Miguel Quinones, Alejandro Aviles Reyes, Keith Spangler, Greg Towner, Jody Zeranin, Lucas Barwick, Michael Baker, Brian Bechtal, Reinhard Bigel, Greg Middlemiss, Connie Moore, William Gothman, Brian Benton, Joan Churchill, Mike Bender, Rick Weinberg, Billy Crafton, Gary Matushak, Greg Latoile Lopez, James Sloan, Jonathan Dillard, John Funk, Ronald Paroli, Dave Roll, Brian Hafner, Misha LeBlanc, Ari Messenger, David Kropke, Todd Grossbeck, Wally Estrella, Sue Reinert, John Lico, Stephen Granada, Philip Mueller, Robert Lackey, Dominic Carroll, Jackie McCullum, John Hickman, Carl Presseau, David Neves, Patty Louise, Terry Fitzgerald, Peter Steinmetz, Timothy Fitzpatrick, Michael Lazewski, Hank O'Donnell, David Zanoni, David Weil, Matthew Sponsella, Chad Reno, Spartan Dale, Carolyn Ferguson, Peggy Littlefield, Lauren Allensmith, Eric Burns, Thomas Pearl, Darren McKibben, Richard Stewart, Dave Fletcher, Jack Smith, Luke Parkinson, Ryan Patterson, Sarus Faravar, John Gardner, Sam Scruggs, Dwight Pintinger, Connie Bowder, Rob Merrifield, and thanks to all past and anonymous folks for helping make this show happen. Thank you for joining. You can find Pedalshift at pedalshift.net for more great bicycle touring content. You can hear the Pedalshift project through Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast app. Opening music courtesy of Jason Kent off his self-titled album. The track is called America. Check out his band Sunfield's latest release, Mono Mono, wherever cool music is available.